Okay, guys, we are on our sticky notes section for methods of science, also known as the scientific method. We are starting on page 16. Okay, all of you have done experiments before, even informally, just all around your life, like how can you solve a problem or observing something and then making a claim based on it. But there's also steps to doing official science experiments that you want to then submit to peer review and be called actual science, okay? So it starts with a question or an observation, and it moves through a set of kind of predicted steps on how you design an experiment and run through it. So I'd like you to take some time and go through these steps, kind of understanding the scientific method and how we move forward with the results we get, if our hypothesis is supported, if it's not supported, move your way through this. That's why I have a start. Take a little time and kind of go through this. The next couple pages outline each of these steps, from asking the question, making a hypothesis, okay, collecting data. And in the data section, it talks about the different types of data and variables. So we're going to take a little bit of extra time with this section right here, okay? Make sure you understand the difference between a control group and an experimental group. Great science always has a control group to determine if the variable is actually what affects the data in the end. So understanding the control group versus the experimental group. This means you have to understand variables. There are two types of variables: independent variables and dependent variables, okay? I like to call them IV and DV. We're gonna spend some time on the independent and dependent variables in an activity in our Zoom meeting, but making note of it here and understanding these four terms, as well as what can remain constant inside your experiment, is gonna be important. We'll go over this more in our Zoom, but this is where it's found inside of that specific section of the book. All right, let's turn to page 20, all right? Science has kind of moved from using the scientific method into using steps called CER. So claim, evidence, and reasoning. And we did an activity using CER the first week of class, but I want you to take a second and see, how does CER kind of match up with the steps in the scientific method? So for example, the claim is kind of like the hypothesis. What does evidence and reasoning kind of match up with between the old version of the scientific method? Okay. All right, that is the end of our chapter. This was a really fast one, okay? We have a little bit of lab safety to go over, but we'll go over those lab safety when we actually do a couple of our labs at home, and hopefully we'll be back to school and get to do a lot of labs. So we are now finished our first unit on what is biology, what is the scientific method, and understanding the nature of science and what makes something alive. So this is our first unit done. All right, thanks guys.